Today, I want to talk about a film that I completely slept on when it came out in theaters. I will go as far to even admit that I low-key hated on this movie before even seeing it, which is a cardinal sin that I must repent for. If you don't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button to never miss a video. We have daily content, including movie reviews and so much more. For today's film we're going to be reviewing, it is the 2025 film that came and went, and that definitely, without question, did not get the recognition it deserved. We are talking about Hard Eyes. Now, yes, it sounds very cheesy and just downright dumb. Like, when I first heard they were making this movie, or when this movie was first coming out, I kind of heard of it. I didn't really even see trailers for it, I don't think. I just saw some snippets and just kind of quickly swiped because Hard Eyes, really? It seemed like it was going to be god-awful. Just because, really, when you think about the premise of the film, it sounds like a ripoff of My Bloody Valentine. And I'm a huge fan of My Bloody Valentine. I've seen both the original and the remake. I actually had the pleasure of meeting the miner, or the actor who plays the miner, both from the original and the remake, which I got both my Blu-ray copies signed, which is really cool, but not really relevant. Moving on. So the fact they made this cheap knockoff, it seemed like that's what it was, and I just was like, that just sounds stupid. I'm not even gonna bother watching that movie or seeing that film. And then I was listening to Junk Food Cinema's podcast episode for Freaky Tales with Pedro Patel. Another great film that I feel like so many people, myself included, slept on. I heard of Freaky Tales. I remember seeing some stuff for it. The marketing really wasn't there. But I remember seeing a poster for it or something. I was like, whatever. And then they did a episode on their podcast, which is something they usually don't do. They usually don't, review and talk about films that came out this year or even recently. Most of them are, older classic films they usually talk about and cover on their show. So when I listened to that one and I just heard them talk about Freaky Tales, I was just fucking in there. It was so on point, and I was just really excited. I'm like, dude, I gotta watch Freaky Tales. And Brian Salisbury, one of the hosts of the show, was saying how Freaky Tales was one of his favorite films of the year thus far, including Hard Eyes being his other favorite film this year. And when he said that, I was a little taken back, because again, I remember saying a little bit about it, but not actually seeing a trailer for it, and just thought it was a My Bloody Valentine ripoff. Then I decided to watch it, because I know it is on Netflix, and I gotta tell you, I watched this movie twice in the past week, because it was just that good. And now, my biggest problem, I will say, I do have an issue with this film, and my biggest problem with this film is the title of the film, and just the marketing itself, because I feel like that's going to turn a lot of people off. Just because it sounds so cheesy and just gooey, like The Hard Eyes Killer, it just doesn't sound like a good horror film. I'm just gonna admit that. I'm gonna call it for that. The title doesn't give it a very appealing title. It doesn't really grasp at you as a good horror film. However, this movie, if I would have saw it in theaters, I'd have given it a Ferris Bueller, because it is that good. It's one of the best kind of campy slashers. Now, I take that back. It's not campy. Because campy, you think of Sleepaway Camp. You think of those 80s slashers that are really tongue-in-cheek and not well executed. And there's a lot of, things you kind of have to forgive. This movie has none of that. It is on top tier of good slasher films. Honestly, I watched the movie twice in the past week. It's not often I watch a film twice in a week, and this one I did, because I was like, I gotta watch it again, because that's how much I enjoyed this movie. Again, it has a very similar premise to what you would think. There is a mass killer going around killing people on Valentine's Day, and it's the third year, and every year he goes to a different city and kills people. And of course, your opening kill scene, chef's kiss. You even have these characters who are just so obnoxious. They do a fantastic job at making these characters so obnoxious that you don't really care that they die. And that's the whole point of your kill-off characters or your disposable characters in horror films, is they're generally kind of, we'll say, I'm trying to think of an appropriate word to describe how distastefully these characters are, that you actually encourage, and get behind the Hard Eyes Killer. Yeah, they're just kind of tools, and you don't really like them. So you don't really care that they're killed off. So, really great opening kill scenes, and the entire film is pretty much that. And that's where it kind of I'm gonna say it is Scream meets My Bloody Valentine, because it has that Scream element where it kind of is it's very self-aware. Like the whole kind of joke of the movie is he only kills couples, and our two main characters who he's after, they're not a couple, but they have this like tension kind of thing going on, and it's very like from the very beginning, first on scene, they had that like kind of moment, and it's kind of like almost like a rom-com kind of like tone in that sense of the relationship. But again, it has that like horror, like comedy-ish moment to it, but in the Scream sense, where it's very self-aware. So it's not even really comedic as much as it is just funny because of how self-aware it is. And this is one of those films that doesn't take itself too seriously, yet it still plays as a very suspenseful and thrilling horror film like Scream. So, all in all, I think that the Hard Eyes Killer is, now, him as a killer, I will say the Hard Eyes, the mask, the Hard Eyes, it's a little like, but I will say though that he looks badass. Like, it definitely works. You would think it wouldn't work because the mask with the hard eyes, it just sounds kind of cheesy and stupid, but the mask actually works. It's really creepy looking, and overall, he is a creepy looking person. Like, it's definitely creepy and it definitely works. Shockingly, it actually works. Like, that's kind of my biggest kind of takeaway from this film, is that I feel like there was just a little bit there with the title that really kind of threw it off, because it just sounds kind of But overall, visually, Hard Eyes Killer definitely is a appealing villain and horror icon. Well, I like to say horror icon. It's too early for that. Although I do think he is going to reach a cult status sooner rather than later and have a longevity with it, just because I feel like it never got its heyday. So it's definitely due for a cult classic kind of status. And in 15, 20 years from now, it's going to be what My Bloody Valentine was when I was growing up to the next generation. And definitely, I think it's going to hold that stamp in the test of time. Now, question of the day. Have you saw the film? What are your thoughts? Comment below. Let me know.